Hello, lads. Rosie here, back again with an Identity 5 video. Identity 5 is Identity V. I actually don't know if it's 5 or V. I don't recall there ever being an Identity 4 or an Identity 3. I don't know if it's Identity 5 or V. I just call it Identity 5. But don't even know if that's accurate. This is a topic that I've done 2 previous videos on. One of them actually got quite a lot of views, especially for a channel like mine, which is known by relatively nobody, which is actually funny. But the last 2 videos that I've done on Identity 5 were done back, I guess, before I really hit red rank at Dead by Daylight, which is the game I actually play much more consistently than this one. So an argument from authority is not really something I'm bringing to the table when I talk about Identity 5, because, I believe I'm tier 2 in this. I don't play the game consistently, I guess, and I think I think that's something I'm actually considering doing. Maybe like Identity 5 Fridays or something, because that just kind of rolls off the tongue. That being said, I do love this game, and I have a big respect for this game for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into, because I think this video is just kind of be going over the state of Identity 5 itself. This game is very much overshadowed by the objectively more well-known and more successful Dead by Daylight. And I think that has a lot to do with the platforms that it's on, the fact that the company that makes this game, NetEase, is a Chinese company instead of a Canadian company. That behavior is a lot closer to home. There's a lot of reasons that, but the biggest reason, of course, is that this game is a mobile game, first and foremost. I believe there's a way to play it on PC as well, but this game is definitely a mobile game, and at their tournaments they actually use phones. That is the legal controls for the game. So that is the format I believe that it should be played on exclusively, because that's what they use at tournaments. So if phones are tournament standard, you have to play on your phone. But that's a different subject for another day. So I don't really have a script or anything. I don't think I said that already. But I'm going to be kind of going over a few things about this game, that about my perspective of it, that's basically changed since I've hit red rank at Dead by Daylight, I guess, is what we're going to go do here. So again, I do not play this game religiously. I play this game as whenever the urge pops up, I guess. I want to talk about why I respect this game, and because I have many reasons that I respect this game as a Dead by Daylight player. And there's even, I've even come to think it was the better game at one point, which, again, my perspective on that has changed, and we'll go into that again as to why I believe it's not the objectively better game. I believe this game has a lot of issues, which I'm going to get into, because but the reason that I respect this game is because of its status overseas, I guess. The status of this game overseas is as a legitimate esport, and that is seen, and there's the people that actually play it in America take it seriously as well, and they have tournaments, they have NAEU tournaments and all that good stuff. But this game is taken very, very seriously over there, and more seriously than Dead by Daylight is taken by its top players, with the exception of a few like True Talent and stuff. True Talent is the obvious exception to the rule, but this game is taken seriously by people, and it's viewed as a completely legitimate form of competition. They have a legit tournament rule set. They have a legit way to play this game at high level. They have rules. They have restrictions. They have things that you are allowed to do and not allowed to do at high level. And that does include SWF, but the SWF is inherently limited by the idea of the game itself, which again, we'll get into that. I've covered the differences between this game and Dead by Daylight numerous times, But I'll only go over it in relation to Dead by Daylight and to why I believe Dead by Daylight is more fun. But this game's status overseas is definitely the best thing about it. And the fact that there's just hours and hours and hours of high-level footage out there for you to watch when you watch this game. You can watch the pros. There's a lot more montages than there is for this game than there is for Dead by Daylight. There's a lot better, I guess, high-level interpretation. Like, there's the concept of this game viewed competitively is viewed much better than it is in Dead by Daylight. In Dead by Daylight, half our top players are upper ass cracks, and they can't even decide if we can have tournaments for this game. Like, Scott Junn has an argument about why Dead by Daylight can't even have a tournament scene, which is why I typed in the comments of one of his videos. Like, I'm not a Twitch guy, so I don't interact with these people. If what he thought about this, but basically, I don't know. Like, I don't think this game has RNG in its spawning on maps. I don't think it does, but maybe somebody can correct me about that in the comments section. But Dead by Daylight tiles spawn RNG based. So, like, there could be a survivor favorite setup and a killer favorite setup, so you could play at the same map and get very different results, which is, I guess, one of the problems with the tournament scene for Dead by Daylight. A problem which I don't think this game has, but that's a thing for another day. But I respect the viewpoint of this game, and I wish that the way that the top players and the people played this game, I wish that it got applied over to Dead by Daylight. I wish we viewed Dead by Daylight with the same level of seriousness that this game's players view it. So I respect this player base, and that's a big reason. This game's player base is a big reason I keep coming back to it. Like, I will never, like, fully stop playing this game. Even though, like, it's not my main game, I will continue to, like, watch this game and figure out what's going on in it from time to time, because this game always interests me for that reason alone, just because of how seriously it gets taken. And if, I think Dead by Daylight has a lot to learn from this game in terms of how to make a competitive community. And that's always why I will respect this game, even more than Dead by Daylight in a lot of situations. Especially with how they've handled their lore, which I went over that a lot in the last video, about like how impressive they've actually built up, and people actually like the characters in this game a lot, and they completely built that up organically, and they haven't needed many licenses, which I believe they actually have some licenses in terms of skins, but they never released like a licensed killer. The licenses are always skins. Like, all their ideas are all original. And then another thing I will give this game credit for is such unique character designs. This game has the best character designs that I've ever seen in this genre, including things like DBD, Resident Evil Resistance, and Friday the 13th, Predator Hunting Ground. All in this entire genre, the people that get most creative with it are the Identity V people. There are so many unique, awesome interactions in this game. That is my fucking... Sorry. There are so many unique and awesome matchups in this game. I like one of my favorite survivors is Female Dancer. I think she brings so much, like, unique interactions to the table against killers. Like, I really like how she interacts with Feaster. I think that's one of my favorite matchups. I think Feaster wins it, but like the concept of you're supposed to loop around the music box, and Feaster can kind of put tentacles up, and he hard counters her, and he forces her to leave the top. Like, I think stuff like that is why I like this game, and like I like watching this game. I like to watch the interaction between the killer and the survivors in this game because they have different matchups. It's not just running the same tiles over and over again like it is in Dead by Daylight. The killer's matchup with the survivor they're chasing is arguably more important than the tile that they're running on, which, again, like in Dead by Daylight, it's all the tiles because it's tiles and the specific killer that you're facing. The survivor isn't really a part of it. Survivor, all they do is they work with the tiles, whereas in this game they have a power to work with as well. And there are pros and cons to that, because I believe that the fact that survivors have powers is actually one of this game's biggest inherent problems, which we'll get into why. But that being said, I think that this game's survivors having powers is its identity, and they can't ever get rid of it. I think there is a reason why that kind of limits the game in some forms, which we'll get into. But I like this. That's like I love watching like a Bloody Queen. Like I love how Prospector, for instance, is a hard counter to Joker in this game, but then somebody like Bloody Queen can come and fucking ruin his day. And I love the interactions between the killers and the survivors. There's just so many examples that I could give you as to why I like this game and the interactions. So that being said, now that I'm better at at Dead by Daylight and have watched top level Identity V extensively, these are very different games. And on the surface, it may not look like they are, but like these are extremely different games. And if you go in, if you play if you go into Identity V and try to play Dead by Daylight, you're gonna fucking lose. And if you go into Dead by Daylight and play like Identity V, you're gonna fucking lose. Like, you can't play these games the same. You can't play Killer in Dead by Daylight as you would play Hunter in Identity V and vice versa. It's impossible. The two roles are designed to do different things, and it may not look like it because you're chasing pallets, you're downing survivors, you're putting them in a chair / hooking them. Like, it may not look like the two roles are designed to do different things, but they are. And I think the character that actually kind of shows that off here is actually a Bonbon, who I'm actually playing right now. When you watch top level Identity V, you're gonna notice one thing, is that the killer camps, okay? And the top level Identity V, the Identity V metagame is very frowned upon in Dead by Daylight. What hunters are supposed to do in this game would get them absolutely destroyed in an endgame chat of Dead by Daylight. Like, a survivor in Dead by Daylight would absolutely hate the way that this game is played. They would not understand. They would hate this game. They would say camping killers ruin the game. They would not understand it. And they would just, call top-level hunters in this game low skill because they're camping the chair. Which is absolute nonsense because they don't understand how the game works. And how the game works is that when the fact is, and this kind of goes into the state of Identity V, and it's that the killers in this game are very ill-equipped to play like a Dead by Daylight killer. They absolutely can't do it. As you can see, Bonbon here is specifically designed to camp the chair. Look at this character design. His power makes way more, his power can be used in a chase, but when you look at it, it makes way more sense when you realize you're supposed to camp the fucking chair with it. As does let's see, Hell Embers. Hell Ember makes way more sense when you realize you're supposed to camp the fucking chair. These characters make way more sense when you realize that. Look how much pressure he can put out. Every one of those bombs is 1/4 of a health state. But when you realize that they're supposed to camp the chair and then tunnel the guy when he gets off the chair, you realize the difference between the two games, because in Dead by Daylight you can get decisive strikes there. And that's kind of the main, Behavior Interactive has done a very good job at rewarding killers that patrol the map, to the point where tunneling and camping is not meta, and probably never will be. Behavior never wants tunneling and camping to be meta, I assume. You can do it, but they have a very clear way that gets punished. It gets punished through their emblem system, and they said survivors have enough time to actually escape if somebody's being camped and stays in the game long enough. They could get all the generators done and just leave and punish the killer that way. A camping killer in Dead by Daylight should lose, whereas in Identity V they're doing what they're supposed to do. Because, you know how many survivors get debuffs when somebody's in a chair? They get, decoding debuffs. The game gets slowed down when somebody's in a chair. The game is designed for the hunter to camp the chair. And that's just a fact of this game, and it's something that if you are going to play this game, you need to understand that tunneling is the meta, and that's why you see me, a killer in Dead by Daylight who will never camp unless the endgame collapse has started and I'm getting fucked. You'll see me camp and tunnel every fucking match here, in this video, because that's what you're supposed to do, and this is part of why Hunter isn't as fun as Dead by Daylight killer is. Now, I'm not gonna Hunter's less okay, but the two roles are stressful, I guess. They're both stressful, but this is part of why I guess Dead by Daylight killer is more rewarding because you know you're doing something that's harder, I guess. Now, don't get me wrong, it's hard to camp the chair, because, like, what you're supposed to do is, like, terror shock the guy. Because if you terror shock the guy who's coming in to get the first rescue, you're gonna fucking win the game. That's like the big win condition if you can do that. It's way harder than it seems. But like, when you're playing Dead by Daylight, the way that it's supposed to be played, and you're constantly bouncing back and forth between survivor, you are constantly outplaying 4 people separately, and so that's a very rewarding thing to be. You outplayed this guy really fast, downed him, hooked him, went back. I'm trying to basically thinking about the spirit here. You outplay one guy, hook him, go back, outplay another guy, slug him, go out and outplay this guy. The killer works very fast and can get very fast downs, provided the killer is good. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, like some killers struggle to get downs, and like Leatherface, Legion, Clown, Plague. Like there are a lot of Pig. Like there are a lot of characters in Dead by Daylight that struggle to actually get the downs. And but in depth, if you're playing a Dead by Daylight top tier, that's kind of what you want to be doing. Like, you're constantly involved, constantly chasing somebody. Like, you're constantly playing the game. Whereas in Identity 5, when you're camping the chair, you're just kind of waiting for the game to come to you, which I think is probably if above any other issue that the game has, waiting for the game to come to you is very lame. It's a very boring thing to be doing. Because camping the chair is boring. It's the worst part of the game. Because when you're playing your character, especially with some of the great character design in this game, you want to be playing your character. You know how much I love playing as Bonbon? Bonbon is so much fun. You want to be playing the character, but half the time you're just waiting for the guy. You're waiting for someone to come to you, which is really boring. And it kind of ruins, you play the game, you chair the guy, and then you're like, okay. And the reason that you chair the guy is because there's no barbecue chili, so there's no Pop Goes Luigi, so there's nothing rewarding your chair. There's nothing rewarding your chair except the debuff that the guy gets from being in the chair. And if you leave, the chances are you'll find a survivor you can't down. And then here's the problem. Here's the big problem with survivors having powers. In Dead by Daylight, every survivor is even in terms of power level, what they can do, their potential, their ceiling. In Identity 5, this is absolutely not the case. Survivors have their own tier list, and they have their own, potential. Some survivors have way more potential than others. And some survivors are an absolute waste of time to the point where you fucking just can't down them. Mercenary, good luck. Forward, you can't down him. Priestess, I mean, you can, I guess, but good luck. Who else is undownable? Wilding can be undownable, depending on your character. Some characters counter him. But, the point is, there are characters in this game that are designed, because they're, Mercenary's the rescuer. He's designed to knock it down so we can come do a rescue. That's what he's designed to do. So, it is impossible for an Identity 5 hunter to connect their plays in the manner that a Dead by Daylight killer has, because eventually they could just hit a brick. And if they hit a brick, they're just fucked. Because if you go around the map and you find the mercenary, you can't down him, and the guy that's in the chair just got out for free, and the guy that you could be tunneling because he doesn't have a DS, or he doesn't have DS or anything, you left the chair and you bricked yourself because you found the mercenary. And now, let's just say, okay, or maybe it's round 3 of a tournament and mercenary's banned. You found forward, and now coordinator is going to go get the rescue, or the perfumer is going to go get the rescue. Because again, top level here is all SWF comm, which is fine because since everybody has a role, it's very easy. It's much easier to predict their plays because everybody has a role. So again, there's pros and cons to it. But this is just how it works. An Identity 5 killer, if they try to play like a Dead by Daylight killer, they can go brick themselves. So there's really no point to leaving that chair because you don't want to brick yourself. If you brick yourself, the momentum you do have is just gone, and then you have to fucking get the guy in the chair and that makes your tunnel harder. And if the guy you down was Perfumer, again, good luck. Or a first officer or something, like somebody who's actually hard to down. If you give them 2 health states again, and the Perfumer has like, I don't know, one thing of perfume left, like you have to do that whole chase again, and that chase can last like 70 seconds. If like that's something you don't have time to do as an Identity 5 hunter, because with a mechanic in the match or just, like or a team with no debuffs, like those ciphers are gonna fly because you don't have any way to stop them. Which again, this is another huge problem with Identity 5's core. Hunters do not have cipher control. 0. They don't have any way to like stop the ciphers from popping apart from the map pressure of the chair. Which again, I mean, would be okay, like if like that's kind of what the speed of the ciphers was kind of balanced around. But like when you have mechanic running around who can decode 350% of the decoding, so like 3.5 ciphers in a match. Like if you like when you've down Perfumer and the mechanic's still working, like it's like that mechanic is insanely fast, and I don't care how many times she gets nerfed. Like her decoding speed is insane. It's absolutely insane. And her doll doesn't help. Matters. Like it's a very intrinsically it's an intrinsically broken character. Which again, decoding speed still's too fast even without the mechanic. Like killers can't hunters cannot stall the ciphers. They can't do it. So, and again, like I said, leaving the guys a lost cause because they can just brick themselves. And then like the Perfumer gets the guy out of the chair and the mechanic's debuff goes away, and then look, like you don't have any pressure anymore. So like everything is encouraging the killer to camp the chair. Everything is encouraging the hunter to camp the chair in this game. Like that's just how it works. Whereas in Dead by Daylight, there's Decisive Strike, there's Borrowed Time, which again, Borrowed Time's also weaker in this game, also encouraging camping the chair. Which again, if Borrowed Time worked the way that it worked in Dead by Daylight in this game, the Survivor would be unstoppable. Because it would give fucking Perfumer 2 hits off the chair, which would be chaos, and that would be insane. So like yeah, like Borrowed Time, the way it is in Dead by Daylight, cannot come to Identity 5 in its current state. So it's like that's kind of the issue that this game faces. And why is that important right now? Because the game just got a huge balance patch where a lot of killers just got buffed. And like the problem with that is like due to the nature, like they put out like win rates, and like hunters have a better win rate than they do in Dead by Daylight. I feel like that's I don't know, like I don't know. This is just from Persuadable. This is what his context was, that killers have a better win rate at every single rank in the game. And I think there's a lot of things that could possibly go into that not in DBD. Like for example, I feel like a younger player base is a reason that it possibly could be. A lot of people that play this game don't play Dead by Daylight because they're too young. And if you don't believe me, just look at the in-game chat. There's a lot of young people in the in-game. Like by young people, I mean like teenagers, like very young, like kind of I guess preteens, if you will. There's a lot of young people that play the game, which is fine. It's like I kind of like it. Like it's fine to have like it's not even a baby's Dead by Daylight, because again, I don't think this game is baby's Dead by Daylight. There's a lot of adults that play this game as well. This is kind of like weeb Dead by Daylight, but this is like they kind of play this game because they can't play Dead by Daylight, I guess. I mean, I don't care. Like that's not. But like, if there's a bunch of 14-year-olds that can't optimally process what the game is, that's an advantage to Hunter. It is. If you can't optimally play the team units, even if the Hunters played semi-optimally and the Survivors just suck dick, like that's a huge detriment to one side. So that could explain like the first 3 ranks. But like as you rank up, a lot of Hunters in this game are strong. They are, because they're balanced around a competitive scene. And when you have tournaments when you have tournaments like Call of the Abyss 2 from last year, which was insanely survivor favored. Like, of course hunters were insanely buffed in the next few patches after that. Like, hunters got a lot of new tricks since Call of the Abyss 2, which is the first tournament for this game I ever watched. They got the addition of Trump card, and the new meta-defining character in Bloody Mary, and optimized Dream Witch. Like, hunters got a lot of new tools to work with, and the also optimizing Bonbon and Mad Eyes. Like, the hunters got new tools, a lot of new tools, whereas Survivor, the metagames kind of stayed the same, apart from they got a few new tricks with Enchantress and Prospector within 1 year, but like nothing like Prospector and Enchantress are like on Perfumer's level. Like, they're not meta-defining characters. The Survivors haven't really gotten a meta-changing character, whereas the hunters kind of have. So it kind of makes sense that this year has gone in the favor of the hunters, because they've gotten so many new tricks, four new meta characters, like, because of the way that the optimization of certain characters has gone. Whereas like Joker and Photographer fall out of the meta, and Bonbon and Mad Eyes kind of rise up. Like, there's so many like possible reasons why Hunter has been doing significantly better, but I'm not trying to justify it. But like, the point is, like, despite Hunter's continued success, they are continuing to nerf the maps anyway. They turned a window into a door. They turned a window into a door at Arms Factory, and at Leo's Memory they shortened the stairs. I don't know, I haven't played since the update happened. But like, the point is, they continue to nerf survivors, even though Hunter has a big success right now. And yes, they did nerf Bloody Mary and the Dream Witch in the same update. I don't know how significant those nerfs are. Dream Witch actually got hit, but like, all they did to Bloody Mary was reduce her movement speed, and Dream Witch got hit with some huge nerf where they remove the fall. I don't know what I don't follow, so I don't know how big the nerf actually is. But the point is that Dream Witch, the nerf looks on paper to be pretty big. So like, they nerfed and then they buffed some of the lower tier survivors. They also buffed Hellember. They buffed Hellember, reworked Axeboy, nerfed the maps. And a lot of people are like, why are we buffing Killer when Killer's win rate is really good right now? And but like, it still doesn't change the fact that optimized SWF should win every time. I feel like, no matter what the challenge is, I feel like, are we all just forgetting that SWF is broken? I will admit, Identity 5, it is weaker. It is weaker in Identity 5 because of how the game works, with survivors being limited in what they can actually do. In this game, it is much weaker, but it's still SWF. It's still team coordination. It's still a thing that inherently breaks this genre. So, like, I feel like the developers know that. Like, that's why I respect these developers so much. I feel like they know what they're doing. They know that optimized SW, like, if they're seeing Hunter, if you're seeing Killer favored win rates, you're doing a good job with game balancing, which is what I've always said about Dead by Daylight. You see, behavior strives for a 50-50 two-man, and that's why you see terrible game balancing in Dead by Daylight. You see very bad game balancing in Dead by Daylight because of the philosophy of the devs, where they want two survivors escaping. So when you see non-optimized SWF, like, you see non-optimized survivors getting their fucking asses kicked, and then you buff Survivor, that only helps optimal gamers. That only helps optimize SWF fucking destroy the Killer even more. So aiming for Killer favored balancing is exactly what they should be doing, and that's why I commend them for continuing to buff Killer, even though that their win rate is bigger than Survivor's win rates. I feel like that's what they should be doing. The balancing philosophy that these developers use to balance this game is exactly what behavior should be doing with Dead by Daylight. The only problem with this game is that the way that you play it just isn't as engaging. It's not as fun. Because in Dead by Daylight, you can't brick yourself by chasing, like, a survivor that can't be downed. Which, I mean, you kind of can, I guess, if the survivor's running really optimally. But, like, but you can consistently find, like, a priestess or something in this game that, or not, I guess she's like, you could consistently find a forward that's way worse than you, and you still can't down them anyway just because of how the forward works. Which, like, that's why I say bricking yourself. Where I feel like it's much harder to brick yourself in Dead by Daylight. Especially with how some of the tiles work, and they're just kind of intrinsically weaker. Well, it's not that they're intrinsically weaker, but it's harder to brick yourself in Dead by Daylight, whereas it's much easier to brick yourself as a Identity 5 hunter. So it's like what do you do with Identity 5 moving forward? Because they're in a state now where Dead by Daylight Mobile is on the market. A lot of these people can now download Dead by Daylight for free, it's interesting. This game is very interesting moving forward for that reason. I mean, I want this game to stay around because I love it, and I love watching the tournaments that they have. I love watching high level for this game. I very much enjoy it, and this game can and should stay around, and it will because of how big it is overseas and in like China. Seriously, if you don't know how big this game is in China, it's huge over there. It's huge in Asia. Like, the tournaments are a huge success over there. Which, again, something Dead by Daylight can only hope to do one day. It's just, this game's future. I don't know what they want to do, because, like, I'm not gonna sit here and just say they should add barbecue and chili and Pop Goes the Weasel to this game. Or add DS, or I don't want to just like insert Dead by Daylight mechanics into this game, because then I'll sound like an entitled Dead by Daylight player who said, well, you're not just you just wish the game was Dead by Daylight. Because I don't so like I'm not suggesting we add Dead by Daylight mechanics to this game. I'm just saying that the way that Dead by Daylight encourages more interaction. It's more, which again, there are things in this game that encourage more interaction than Dead by Daylight. Like, for example, the crows on the survivors that form if they're not doing anything. That's really good, and I wish that was in Dead by Daylight, because the fact that Dead by Daylight doesn't have that is very silly, actually. And I like this game for that reason. But like the way that Dead by Daylight just kind of is, like, just like the nature of bouncing back, like the game is more interactive. There's less waiting. There's always, like, the killer always is like doing something, I guess, when the role is being played correctly. The killer is moving towards something, they're doing something, they're chasing this guy, kicking this gen, chasing that guy, breaking this breakable wall. Like, there's always something that the killer is doing. They're not just standing there waiting for the game to come to them. But like the biggest issue kind of with that is, like, if Identity 5 wanted to like take a more active approach, the game is not in a state where that can happen because of how the hunter can easily brick themselves if they go after a forward or a mercenary. So like if you're going to like fucking do like kind of take a more Dead by Daylight style approach, you have to like rework half the roster. And I'm not just talking about killers or survivors. You have to rework. I'm not just talking about survivors. You have to rework some of the killers too. They're way too good at camping. Like, Hellember is insanely good at camping. If you were going to change how the game works, you have to buff him in the chase severely and just fucking get rid of his camping tools. But like, you have to rework half the roster. Like that's obviously not an option. Reworking half the roster. Like, you'd have to nerf forward, you'd have to nerf mercenary, you'd have to nerf priestess again, who is also a major problem character in this game that I think is one of the most unbalanced things I've ever seen in my life. You know, when priestess came out, people said she wasn't good, and I'm like, what are you talking about? She can make a portal that can take you from one side of the map to the other and negate your tunnel, and that, like, what the hell you mean she's not good? And then Call of the Abyss 2 happened and everybody shut up about that. But yeah, I'm glad we finally realized that character's broken. Like, yeah, her blue portal's absolutely insanely broken. Like that, priestess should have like the way that priestess is should be a killer power instead of a survivor power. Base teleporting, insanely good, dude. But that's kind of the question of this game's future. What do you do with it? And it will always be compared to Dead by Daylight just because of the nature and the formula. but like just Dead by Daylight's more active approach makes the game more fun. And I really like don't even know which game is more balanced, TBH. Again, I'm only ranked 2, but like I want to say like Identity 5 might even have better balancing than DBD, just because of how like at top level I've been like all those tournaments I've seen. I've seen a lot of hunters actually win. So it's possible like what they do like it's just the matter of engagement. Is the game fun? Are people enjoying it? Like do people like the meta game of this game? Which again, I'm not officially like a part of the community. I can only offer my perspective as a DBD player and what I see in the game. And like when people's like it's kind of I guess it's kind of a controversial time in the Identity 5 community, just from some of the comments I've been seeing because of the nerfs to some of the maps and buffs to some of the killers. And kind of did they nerf any survivors? I don't remember if they. I don't think so. I think they only buffed survivors. They didn't nerf any top tier survivors. But it's very interesting to see what this game's future is going to be. And as finally a high level Dead by Daylight player, I can finally look back and talk about my feelings on this game. In kind of a finality, I guess. I'll probably return to this game again in the future as it keeps changing. And I always come back to this game and have new things to say on it eventually. But like it's just a slower paced game, I guess. Even like it's like some of the times sometimes a Dead by Daylight match can last up to like 25 minutes, whereas these games matches never tend to go above 15 minutes, but like it still feels a bit slower because because there's a lot of moments where you're less active. Which again, there's less active moments in Dead by Daylight 2, but like when Dead by Daylight is less active when you're playing as killer, it's because the survivors are probably stalling the game after you've won. Like that's something that could be easily fixed if they just ripped a mechanic from Identity 5 and put it in DBD, which is very possible to do if they were smart. But like Identity 5's slow points definitely come from like encouraged game mechanics, I guess. And if this game wants to like continue competing with DBD, I guess, and it wants to have a continued future, I feel like if they were to kind of make the role more active, that would help them tremendously. Because again, the interactions in this game are super fun, and there should be more of that in the game. Because like I wish Feaster was at a good enough state to where he could like actually go back and forth and interact with survivor after survivor after survivor, whereas how he kind of is now is just camp a chair. That's how everybody is, just camp a chair. And I'm not trying to speak from personal preference. I'm just trying to talk about the objective way that the two roles are played. Maybe some people prefer the way that the Identity 5 killer is actually played, which I mean, if you prefer it, more power to you. But like the objective data, I feel like, is stating that it's a less active role, and I feel like that's where people's issues with it come in. But you know, it could be the phone or controls. Like there could be other. There's a lot of things I'm kind of leaving out of this because I don't want this to be too long. But that's kind of the main state of the game right now. It's in such an awkward position where people want the hunters to stop camping, but they kind of can't, and nor should they. If the game is like at this, like I was like one of my biggest disappointments when I was watching Call of the Abyss 3 was the fact that the game has definitely stayed in the state where they did not kind of fix the camping problem of the game, where like the camping killer is just kind of the thing that happens in this game. There's kind of nothing you can do about it, which again, that's how the meta is. That's how this game is played. If you don't like it, there's always they play Dead by Daylight. But I'm not asking this game to be Dead by Daylight because it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be anything it doesn't want to be. Nor should it be Dead by Daylight. I want the games to retain separate identities, but I just feel like Identity 5 taking some pointers from DBD in terms of cipher control. It would definitely like improve the game's quality. But again, like I don't know, because then you'd have to rework half the roster. It's a sticky situation that I don't know what they do about. It's rough. It's rough. I'll definitely keep an eye on the game and see where it goes. But and I will definitely keep playing it. Again, I'm thinking about doing Identity 5 Fridays here on the channel, just playing Identity 5. But yeah, that's about all I got for right now. Chat, lads.